Hey there. So I have to say before all of this that I enjoyed Twitter controversy. I like looking at it, and I like looking at what sets the internet ablaze. It doesn't take much either. You can go out as a company and you can say the wrong thing on Twitter. You make the wrong type of joke and, well, they will try to rail on you and destroy your product. Now, Cyberpunk 2077, well, it has set Twitter ablaze. In the last 24 hours, there are so many people railing about it, and within the last, say, 40 minutes or so, they have apologized for what I'm going to show you. Now, for myself, I would not apologize for this personally, but when you're marketing a product, they decide what's in their best interest. They are marketing a product. They don't want this outrage culture. Unfortunately, what they don't understand within this is people will not take that. They will say that you need to fire somebody, or you need to do this, or you need to do that in order to bring people that would have never brought your game in the first place, to bring them into the fold. Why? Because, well, that's the way that this works. So when you think about Cyberpunk 2077, you can see that it had a very good reception. 1.8 million views for this trailer from June 10th. They have some great screenshots out there that they just released within, say, the last 3 hours. You can look through those. You actually have some nice looking stuff there. It looks like an enjoyable addition to everything. You'll notice too, like I was saying, there's an apology for what I'm about to show you. And well, brace yourself, because this is the motherlode of all monstrosities. So are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? Have you ushered all the children out of the room? Have you made sure that your fur babies are out of the room too, if you don't have children, or that you've covered their eyes and made sure that you've sheathed their claws because you don't want them going crazy when I read this aloud? Okay, you're warned. Here we are. Somebody posted Cyberpunk 2077 here. Gamescom starts at E3 ended, and checked Twitter here. I want more, guys. You can see that, and wow, Cyberpunk 2077, they literally Hitlered the response by saying, "Did you just assume their gender?" Oh my freaking God. I know, right? You were probably just shaking there. Literally shaking. It's probably so hard right now that you would go into jazz hands, probably spasming there. You start snapping everywhere because your internet PTSD, it was just triggered. Well, apparently, there are a lot of people just like you if you feel that way too. Check out some of these responses. And what's funny is you'll notice they keep rolling in too. There are more rolling in every time. But here's a few. I'm going to read maybe 3 of these, and then I'm going to give you a little lecture on why that's so terrible. Amazing how typing an quote-unquote assume your gender joke has completely changed the people who will buy Cyberpunk 2077, from cool queer people to nerds who will buy to own the libs in a matter of minutes. Enjoy pandering to the literal worst group, I guess. Now, right there, the cool queer people, the people that apparently cannot abide something like this being said. They were going to go out and they were going to play video games wherein we've been told time and again the environment is not welcoming to people that, project their fifis out there. Time and again, we've been told that environment, it is not a safe space. But hey, apparently they are pandering to people who will own the libs. Not to people who wanted to buy a cool video game. Nope, that was people who would want to try to own the libs. Got you there. Now, continuing with this, here's a second one. According to @Cyberpunk Game, the way to promote your new Cyberpunk 2077 is to use derogatory transphobic means that trivialize and mock transgender people. Strange, because Cyberpunk involves the deconstruction of identity norms, which should naturally include fluid gender expression. Wow, way to make that game not sound fun at all. Awesome there. Now here's one I actually enjoy here, because you can see, again, what actually was said here, and then look at the way that it's translated for an audience of people. Cyberpunk 2077. If you alter your body in any way, you're subhuman. It's just them pandering to the cyberpunk trope. Cyberpunk 2077. Did you just assume my gender? Yeah, okay. Man, that's some heavy, heavy stuff right there. Now, why is this terrible? Well, luckily, we have those internet guides that will also give you a lecture on why this is terrible. And there are many of them out there. In fact, I have 40 new results for Assume My Gender. That is my search parameter since I pulled this up. But this is the main one here. You'll notice how people within comic books and on are also within that. Yes, you have the offense culture out there, and they are primed, locked, and ready. So I'm going to pull this up over here so you can see the whole discourse of it, and this is about the game. At the end of it, you will have it lead back to it, but this is telling you why this is so terrible. Why is, did you assume my gender transphobic, you ask? Allow me to explain. The joke centers around the supposed misgendering of a person. Trans people get misgendered all the time, which is a hurtful and dehumanizing experience. The phrase spawned as a joke about outrage culture and Tumblrinas being offended by everything. So you don't think that outrage culture is part of that and that Tumblrinas are part of it? Oh no, of course not, because we'll get to the literal murder behind all of this. So let's continue. It plays on this false image that trans people and non-binary folk in particular are deliberately trying to be offended and looking for opportunities to do so. This is, of course, complete bullshit. Nope, none of that around here. Didn't see any of that in the reaction. Of course, continuing, the reality is no trans person has ever responded to being misgendered by claiming someone assumed their gender. Really, no one has ever done that. Because I've been on the internet for a while, I've gone through and I've looked at many a reaction, and I have to disagree with this very heavily. Many a person has a fit about people assuming their gender. In fact, we had a really good display of that with WorldCon. WorldCon had one of its people that I did a video on that was mad because of the misgendering, the ear himself. Yeah, they were misgendered because someone used male pronouns. So yeah, there was a whole debacle over it, but that never happened according to this. Continuing here. In fact, most trans people are terrified of the idea of having to correct someone and will often let misgendering slide. Perhaps the worst part is that this fear is very grounded in reality. Trans people get literally murdered by people who misgender them. So Cyberpunk 2077 basically is either catering to people that will literally murder trans folk, or they're people that would literally murder trans folk. I got that there. Gotcha. See that. Continuing. No trans person is ever going to go around loudly proclaiming that someone has assumed their gender. This phrase is up there with, I identify as a attack helicopter as bad jokes that trivialize trans identity and dehumanize us. Dehumanization. Now, I find that really interesting too, because we see in arguments all of the time these things about agency. I mean, really, when you boil it down, it's an argument about that idea. So it's A-okay to tell females they're not female or they can't speak up, or to tell quote-unquote people of color that they're Nazis, or that they're alt-Rikers because, or they're, white supremacists and on because they don't agree with your rhetoric. But this kind of thing here, saying, did you assume my gender? It dehumanizes. It's the removal of agency. It's okay to do certain things when, but right here, when this happens, it is a dehumanization method. Continuing, it can also bring to the fore painful memories of abuse. The DPR tweet is a particularly bad example here because it appears to be largely unprovoked, and perhaps shows that their social media manager was just itching to drop this poor excuse for a joke. Or here's a different one. Maybe they made a joke, and maybe you didn't like the joke, but maybe they weren't just locked and loaded and said, you know what, Dr. Ashley here, I think I'm going to offend them. I think I'm going to not only do that, I'm going to dehumanize this person. Maybe they were just joking around. Continuing, what that says about this person's character is left to the reader. There's one within that. So we're going to get many more of these, but I'm going to go through 3 because I don't like going through many more with it. So here's a quick and dirty guide on how to coexist with trans people. Don't make, did you just assume my gender jokes? Don't make references to being in a attack helicopter. Both these things earn a big red I'm a dipshit sticker right on your forehead, and it's so easy to avoid this. Here's another person here. This will be our last example. What gets me about the did you assume my gender jokes is that we all know cis people don't assume shit. Cis people will establish a goddamn inquisition for the purposes of reaching the conclusion that someone with a D cup wearing a dress is actually a man because hairline shape. Is that what it is? It's amazing there that we have social norms. People see other people out there. They assume that a person is or isn't a specific gender. And within that, well, it's not just male or female anymore. I mean, if you want to be a demi-boy, dragonkin, and so on, well, that's there. In fact, I've talked about this before. There was an example within a live stream where I was talking to somebody and they provided me a link. It had all of these gender qualifiers. Now, I pulled this up and it was 5 Excel sheets that were multiple columns, and they showcased all of these different descriptors and different combinations. And I thought, my God, how can you ever keep up with that stuff? But of course, it's quote-unquote cis people out there that are causing issues because they will form a goddamn inquisition to make sure that people out there, they're trivialized within assume your gender. So, of course, we have an apology here. Sorry to all those offended by one of the responses sent out from our account earlier. Harming anyone was never our intention. Now, to be very interesting to see how exactly this stuff goes over within it, because apologizing to certain people out there, it doesn't help. It will never help. You will have calls for someone to be fired. You will have calls for banning this, and so on. It happens just like this all the time. Amazing, too, how it's A-okay to go out and to say certain things out there, but this is somehow dehumanization. With Sarah Young, A-okay. Those things are fine. The same people that tell me this kind of stuff say that the types of racism, the types of sexism and on we saw there, that's A-okay. That's good stuff. But this thing here, someone needs to pay. So anyhow, I thought I would bring you this. I thought I would showcase it a bit. I tried not to be too heavily biased within it, but this is just another example of what you see within Twitter. Sometimes I wonder why businesses come there at all. I mean, if you're going to talk about having any kind of personality within it, well, it's difficult. Now, I do have to say that people that represent your place, when they go out and they want to cause problems, when they want to call consumers Nazis or racists or bigots and on, there you have a problem because you are specifically targeting people. But you tell me, within this, is that the same as this here? That's pretty much my final thought on that, when I'm talking about this. But I'm curious what other people think about it. Also, if you enjoy this type of content, please make sure to, of course, like and subscribe to the channel. Also within this, there are links within the description. There's a Patreon if you would like to support there because, of course, YouTube hates the wrong thinker. There is also a tip jar and on, but within this, I'm curious what other people think about this. Will you support Cyberpunk 2077? Within that, do you think that the cool queer kids, they're no longer able to play it anymore because they just literally Hitlered the game? I mean, what do you think? Thank you.